What if the first sign of dementia wasn't forgetting a name or losing your way home, but just a single strange sentence? Something so small, so quiet, you'd barely notice it slip out in the middle of a chat. Maybe it's your grandma pausing mid-story to say something odd, or your neighbor muttering a line that doesn't quite fit. You think, huh, that's weird, and let it go, because who wouldn't? But here's the twist. What if, years later, you looked back and realized that was it? That tiny offhand comment was the moment it all began? The brain's sneaky like that. It doesn't always blast a warning with flashing lights or dramatic breakdowns. Sometimes it whispers softly, subtly in ways that slip right past us. Most people miss it. Families overlook it. Even doctors can shrug it off because it doesn't match the dementia we've got locked in our minds. You know, the big obvious stuff. But those whispers, they're there, hiding in plain sight, and they're trying to tell us something huge. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on 9 things seniors might say. Things that sound innocent or quirky at first, but could be early clues of dementia. These are the moments too many people ignore until it's way too late, and I don't want that for you or the people you care about. So, grab a coffee, settle in, and let's walk through this together. Ready? Here we go. Number 1. Why do I keep losing everything? Let's start with Ellen. She's 70, sharp as ever, or so everyone thought. But a few years back, something shifted. It was small at first. She'd set her glasses down, turn around, and poof, they were gone. Her keys vanished into thin air. Her phone might as well have sprouted legs and walked off. She'd wander around her little house, muttering to herself, "Why do I keep losing everything?" Sometimes she'd laugh it off like, "Oh, I'm just getting old." Other times, she'd point a finger, usually at her husband, Tom. "You moved my stuff again, didn't you?" she'd say, half joking, half serious. Tom would just shake his head and help her look. For 2 years, that line was her anthem. Why do I keep losing everything? It became this running gag in the family. Ellen's lost her keys again. Better call the search party. But then one day it wasn't funny anymore. She couldn't find her car in the grocery store parking lot. Not because she forgot where she parked, but because she couldn't remember driving there at all. That's when the doctor visits started, and 2 years after those first complaints, the diagnosis landed: early onset dementia. By then, it wasn't just keys or glasses she was losing. It was bigger stuff: confidence, independence, little pieces of herself. Here is why this matters. Studies show that griping about losing things all the time isn't just a quirk of aging. It's often one of the earliest signs something's off in the brain, specifically in the hippocampus, that little seahorse-shaped spot that handles memory. When it starts to falter, people don't just misplace stuff, they lose the memory of moving it in the first place. Imagine setting your phone on the counter, walking away, and then your brain just deletes that moment. Gone. So, when they can't find it, they're not absent-minded. They're stuck in a gap. That's where the frustration comes from. That's why Ellen would blame Tom or get snappy. She wasn't careless, she was confused, and she didn't even know it. Think about your own life for a sec. We all lose stuff, right? I can't tell you how many times I've torn apart my couch looking for the remote. But with Ellen, it wasn't a one-off. It was constant, and it came with this helpless edge. If you hear someone, maybe your mom, your grandpa, say this over and over, don't just laugh it off. It might not be old age. It might be the brain sending up a tiny flare. Number 2, why is everyone talking so fast? Next up, let's talk about Harold. He's 76, a retired mechanic with a laugh that could fill a room. Harold loved people, card nights with his buddies, Sunday dinners with the family, you name it. But then, out of nowhere, he started pulling back. It started with this one line: "Why is everyone talking so fast?" He'd say it to his wife, Betty, usually after a lively dinner. "I can't keep up anymore," he'd grumble. "Everyone's rushing their words." Betty would tease him. "What, are we all auctioneers now?" And they'd move on. His hearing tested fine, so no one thought much of it. Just Harold being Harold, right? But over time, It wasn't just a grumble. He stopped showing up to those card nights. Family dinners got quieter. He'd sit there nodding, but you could tell he wasn't really in it. "I can't follow," he'd say, shaking his head. "It's like everyone's on fast forward." 3 years after that first odd comment, the truth hit. Alzheimer's. Looking back, Betty wishes she'd connected the dots sooner. Harold wasn't just tired of chatter. He was losing the ability to keep up with it. Research explains this perfectly. Early cognitive decline doesn't mess with your ears. It messes with your brain's ability to process what you hear. Think of it like a computer lagging on a video call. The sound comes through, but the system can't handle it. For Harold, a busy table of voices was like a storm he couldn't navigate. Even one-on-one, he'd ask Betty to repeat herself, not because he didn't hear, but because the words wouldn't stick. It's exhausting, like trying to catch raindrops in your hands. No wonder he started dodging people. Who wants to feel left behind in their own life? I've seen this myself. My uncle used to say something similar at family reunions. "Slow down, you're all talking over each other." We'd laugh, thinking he was just grumpy. Now I wonder, if someone you know keeps saying the world's moving too fast, especially if their hearing's okay, don't assume it's nothing. It might be their brain struggling to keep pace. Number 3, you never told me that. Now let's meet Clara. She's 69, the kind of mom who never missed a birthday or a school play. But a few years ago, her kids noticed something off. They'd plan a barbecue, call her up, "Mom, it's Saturday at 3, see you there." And she'd agree. Then Saturday would roll around and Clara would be nowhere in sight. When they'd call, confused, she'd fire back, "You never told me that." At first they thought she was joking. "Come on, Mom, we talked about this." But she'd dig in. "No, you didn't, I'd remember." It turned into these little spats. Her kids frustrated, Clara stubborn as a mule. For a while, everyone chalked it up to her personality. Clara could be set in her ways, after all. But it kept happening. Plans, appointments, casual chats. She'd swear they never came up. 2 years later, early Alzheimer's gave them the answer they didn't want. Her family still talks about it, how they wish they'd seen past the arguments to what was really going on. Studies say this is a big one. Short-term memory starts to slip, and people genuinely believe they weren't told something. It's not a lie or a dodge. It's like the conversation never landed in their brain. Picture this. You tell me a story, I nod along, but 5 minutes later, it's erased. If you bring it up again, I'm blank, convinced you're making it up. That's what Clara was living. It's why she got defensive. In her mind, her kids were wrong, not her. But that defensiveness, it's the brain failing to lock in new info, and it can chip away at trust between parents and kids, spouses, friends. I've had moments like this with my own family. My grandma once swore I never told her about a trip I was taking, even though we talked about it for weeks. I got annoyed, she got mad, and we let it go. Now I think, what if? If this line keeps popping up in your life, don't just roll your eyes. It might be more than stubbornness. Number 4, that's not what I meant. Okay, let's shift gears to Vivian. She's 74, a retired teacher with a knack for storytelling, but a couple years back her stories started unraveling. She'd call her grandson the dog by mistake or trail off mid-sentence, like the words just slipped away. If you tried to nudge her asking, "You mean Tommy, right?" she'd snap, "That's not what I meant." She'd insist she'd said it right, even when it made no sense. At first, it was almost funny, like a quirky glitch. But it kept happening. Names swapped, questions that didn't fit, sentences that fell apart. 2 years later, Alzheimer's pieced it together. Experts say this is a sneaky one. Language skills can fade early in dementia. The brain starts misfiring, grabbing the wrong word, losing the thread, or spitting out something totally off. But here's the wild part. They don't notice. Vivian thought she was crystal clear, even when she wasn't. It's like her mind was rewriting the script without telling her. That gap between what she said and what she meant sparked tension. Her family would correct her, she'd push back, and suddenly a cozy chat turned into a standoff. Think about how frustrating that must feel. You're trying to say something simple like pass the salt, but out comes hand me the cloud, and you don't even clock it. It's not just a mix-up, It's a slow drift between language and awareness. I've seen this with a friend's dad. He'd ramble, then get mad when we didn't follow. And if "that's not what I meant" keeps coming up, especially with irritation, it might be a sign the wires are crossing. Number 5, I think something's wrong with my brain. This one's heavy. Meet Linda, 71. 4 years before her Alzheimer's diagnosis, she started saying something that still gives me chills. She'd be sitting on her porch, sipping tea, and out of nowhere, she'd look at her daughter and say, "I think something's wrong with my brain." It wasn't dramatic, no tears, no panic, just this quiet, matter-of-fact hunch. "I'm not forgetting things," she'd add, "but I feel strange." Her daughter would ask what she meant, but Linda couldn't pin it down. "It's just off," she'd say, then shrug and change the subject. Her doctor didn't take it seriously. "You're fine, Linda. Memory's sharp. No worries." But that feeling stuck with her, like a shadow she couldn't shake. She'd bring it up now and then, always calm, always vague. 4 years later, when the diagnosis came, her daughter replayed those moments and felt her stomach drop. Linda had known. Somehow, deep down, she'd felt it. Research has a name for this: subjective cognitive decline. It's when someone senses a shift in their head, even if tests say everything's normal. Studies show it can pop up years before the big symptoms hit. It's not about losing your keys or forgetting a name. It's this faint, fuzzy disconnect, like the brain's whispering, "Hey, I'm not quite right." Linda wasn't imagining it. She was picking up on something real, even if she couldn't name it. That's what makes this so haunting. If someone you love says this, even casually, even once, don't dismiss it. It might be the earliest call for help. When someone calls you out, you're sure they're wrong. Number 6, I just don't feel like myself anymore. Now, let's talk about Sarah. She's 67, a painter who used to light up every room with her energy. But a few years ago, that light started to dim. She'd sit at her easel, brush in hand, and say, "I just don't feel like myself anymore." Her family thought it was a rut, maybe depression after retiring. They tried to cheer her up. Trips to the park, new art supplies, but nothing stuck. "I'm not sad," she'd say, "I'm just dull." 2 years later, frontotemporal dementia explained it. The Sarah they knew was slipping away, piece by piece. Studies say this can happen early in some dementias. Personality shifts before memory even wobbles. It's not about forgetting. It's about feeling. Sarah didn't lose her skills. She lost her spark. She'd stare at her canvases uninspired or skip dinners with friends because it didn't feel right. Her family kept pushing antidepressants. But this wasn't that. It was her brain's emotional circuits rewiring, quietly erasing the woman she'd been. She felt it deep down, even if no one else could see it yet. I felt shades of this myself. Not dementia, just life. Those days where you're off and you can't say why. But for Sarah, it didn't pass. It deepened. If someone you know says they don't feel like themselves, and it lingers, don't assume it's just a mood. It might be their brain telling a story no one's ready to hear. Number 7, stop changing things, I can't keep up. Next there's Walter, 75. He was the chillest guy. New restaurant? Sure. Rearranged living room? No problem. But then he started digging in his heels. A new coffee mug threw him off. A shifted chair made him grumble. "Stop changing things, I can't keep up." His wife, June, thought he was just getting cranky with age, but it got worse. He'd snap if she swapped the cereal brand or moved his toolbox. "I just want things the same," he'd say, almost pleading. 3 years later, mild cognitive impairment made it clear this wasn't grumpiness, it was a sign. Research calls this a loss of cognitive flexibility. The brain's ability to roll with new info or small tweaks starts to fade. For Walter, a tiny change, like a different shampoo, felt like a puzzle he couldn't solve. It wasn't laziness or stubbornness, it was overwhelm. What used to be a breeze now took effort his mind couldn't muster. He'd always been adaptable, so this shift stood out. June still talks about how she missed it, how she thought he was just set in his ways. I get it. Change can bug anyone. I freak out if my phone updates and the icons move. But for Walter, it was deeper. If someone you know goes from easygoing to rigid, especially over little stuff, pay attention. It might not be them. It might be their brain drawing a line in the sand. Number 8. Everyone's against me lately. This one's tough. Meet Thomas, 78. 2 years before his Lewy body dementia diagnosis, he started seeing shadows, not literal ones, but in his mind. He'd whisper to his wife, "The neighbors are watching us." Or he'd accuse his daughter of hiding his wallet. "I know you took it." It wasn't anger so much as fear, like the world was closing in. His wife tried to laugh it off. "Thomas, no one's spying." But he'd double down. "Everyone's against me lately," he'd say, eyes darting. It turned his warm home into a cold, suspicious place. Studies say paranoia can sneak in early with some dementias, especially Lewy body. The brain starts twisting reality. Normal moments become threats. Thomas wasn't just worried, he was convinced. His mind couldn't read social cues right anymore. Smiles looked like smirks, kindness felt like tricks. It's heartbreaking because he pulled away from everyone, even as he needed them most. His daughter still cries about it, how she didn't see the fear for what it was. "I've seen paranoia in small doses. My dad once thought a co-worker was sabotaging him, and it passed. But for Thomas, it grew. If someone you love suddenly thinks the world's out to get them, especially if it's new, don't write it off as a bad day. It might be their brain rewriting the story." Number 9, you're the one who keeps messing things up. Finally, there's Henry, 69. He was the patient one, never raised his voice, always steady. But a few years back that changed. He'd snap at his wife, Lisa, over tiny things. "You gave me the wrong time for the doctor," he'd say, even when she hadn't. Or, "You're confusing me on purpose," when she'd just asked a simple question. It started small, little jabs, but it built up. 3 years later, Alzheimer's explained it, but by then, their quiet evenings were long gone. Research says this blame game can signal early dementia. As memory frays, anxiety creeps in. They feel off but can't name it, so they point fingers. For Henry, every mix-up was Lisa's fault, not because he hated her, but because he was scared. It's not just grumpiness, it's a shield. He'd lash out to hide the confusion bubbling underneath. Lisa took it personally until she understood. This wasn't her Henry, it was his brain, crying out in the only way it could. I've felt that sting, someone snapping at you and you're like, "What did I do?" But with Henry, it wasn't about Lisa. If a steady person turns sharp, blaming everyone else, look closer. It might be fear wearing anger's mask. Wrapping it up. Here's the thing. Dementia doesn't always start with the big stuff. It's not always lost keys or forgotten faces. Sometimes it's in their words. A quirky line, a sudden snap, a quiet hunch. These aren't just moments. They're cracks forming, tiny fractures in the foundation. Catch them early and you might get ahead of it. More time, more talks, more chances to help. Miss them, and the silence that comes later? That's the part you can't undo. I've been thinking about this a lot, how we miss what's right in front of us because it doesn't fit the picture we expect. Ellen's lost keys, Harold's fast talkers, Clara's arguments, all these little threads weaving something bigger. What about you? Have you heard these lines from someone you love? Maybe it's nothing, or maybe it's the start of a story worth listening to. Thanks for sticking with me through this. It's a heavy one, I know. If you want more ways to keep your mind sharp or just live a little healthier, check out this next video. I think you'll love it. This is Thrive in Prime, and I'll see you there. Take care, okay?